Heroes, Gods, and Monsters of the Greek Myths. Book 1. Gods. Chapter title. Poseidon. In the event that you do not know where the chapter Poseidon is, you can always go back to your table of contents, find the page, and then follow back to where I am. After Kronos was deposed, the three sons threw dice for his empire. Zeus, the youngest, won and chose the sky. Poseidon smiled to himself because the sky was empty, and he knew that the impulsive Zeus had chosen it because it looked so high. And now he, Poseidon, could choose as he would have done if he had won. He chose the sea. He had always wanted it. It is the best place for adventures and secrets, and making claims on land and sky. Hades, who was always unlucky, had to take the underworld. The earth was held as a commonwealth and left to the goddesses to manage. I will point out, for everyone paying attention, this stuff changes. Greek mythology will change and be different depending on what time you're actually reading it, what period in Greek history you're actually hearing it from. And there are better and worse versions of myths. This book, though a great book, can sometimes, what's the word? Take the less fun versions of these myths. So, I say all of this, and I'm saying it to you now, to explain that later on, I'll actually end up giving you other versions of these myths in a God's video for the whole pantheon. So for right now, let's allow this story to take hold. Once we have an understanding, then we'll go back, and from there, I will change the way that we think. All right, cool. So, Poseidon left Olympus and came to his kingdom. He immediately set about building a huge underwater palace with a great pearl and coral throne. He needed a queen and chose Thetis, a beautiful nereid, or water nymph. But it was prophesied that any son born to Thetis would be greater than his father, so Poseidon decided to try elsewhere. The prophecy still came true. The son of Thetis was Achilles. We'll find out about him in time. Poseidon chose another nereid named Amphitrite. But like his brother, Zeus, he was a great traveler and had hundreds of children in different places. He was a very difficult god, changeful and quarrelsome. He did bear grudges, but he could be pleased, and then his smile was radiant. He liked jokes, and thought up very curious forms for his creatures. He liked to startle nymphs with monsters, and concocted the octopus, the squid, the sea polyp or jellyfish, the swordfish, blowfish, sea cow, and many others. Once trying to appease Amphitrite's jealous rage, he thought up the dolphin and gave it to her as a gift. He was greedy and aggressive, always trying to add to his kingdom. Once, he claimed Attica as his own and stabbed his trident into the hillside where the Acropolis still stands, and in a spring of salt water spouted. Now, the people of Athens did not want to belong to the kingdom of the sea. They were afraid of Poseidon, who had a habit of seizing all of the youth of a town when he was in the mood, so they prayed to be put under the protection of another god. Athene heard their prayers. She came down and planted an olive tree by the side of the spring. Poseidon was enraged. His face darkened, and he roared with fury, raising a storm. A fishing fleet was blown off the sea and never came to port. He challenged Athene to single combat and threatened to stir up a tidal wave to break over the city if she refused. She accepted, but Zeus heard the sound of the quarreling and came down and decreed a truce. Then all the gods sat in council to hear the rival claims. After hearing both Athene and Poseidon, they voted to award the city to Athene, because her olive tree was the better gift. After that, Athenians had to be very careful when they went to sea, and were often unfortunate in their naval battles. See Athenian naval history, it's not good. Poseidon was very fond of Demeter, and pursued her hotly when he thought about it. He cornered her finally one hot afternoon on a mountain pass and demanded that she love him. Yeah, that's a great way of being. Don't do that, guys. Don't, girls, you too. Don't do that. She didn't know what to do. He was so huge and so implacable and so persistent. You see, that's called fear. That's not good. Finally, Demeter said, "Give me a gift. You have made creatures for the sea. Now make me a land animal. But a beautiful one, the most beautiful ever seen." She thought she was safe, because she believed that he could only make monsters. She was amazed when he made her a horse, and gasped with delight when she saw it. And Poseidon was so struck by his handiwork that he swiftly made a herd of horses that began to gallop about the meadow, tossing their heads, flirting their tails, kicking up their back legs, and neighing joyously. And he was so fascinated by the horses that he forgot all about Demeter, and leapt on one and rode off. Later, he made another herd of green ones for his undersea stables, but Demeter kept the first herd. From that, all of the horses of the world have descended. Another story says it took Poseidon a full week to make the horse. See, even he's mentioned in other stories. During that time, he made and cast aside many other creatures that didn't come out right, but he simply threw them away without killing them, and they made their way into the world. From them came the camel, the hippopotamus, the giraffe, the donkey, and the zebra. And I can't turn the page. In another story, Demeter turned herself into a mare to escape Poseidon, but he immediately changed himself into a stallion, galloped after her, and caught her. From this courtship came a wild horse, Arion, and the nymph called Desponia. Demeter was also the moon goddess, and all through mythology there is a connection between the horse and the moon and the sea. And the she-horse is given a sea name, Mare. The moon swings the tides, the waves have white manes, the dripping horses stamp on the beach, and their hooves leave moon-shaped marks. An old, old thing that has not entirely disappeared. Heroes, Gods, and Monsters of the Greek Myths. Chapter title, Hades. Before I even start, this is one of those gods where he changes entirely by the time that Christianity shows up in Greece. Entirely. He's not even the same person anymore, because they instantaneously associate him with the devil, and we shouldn't do that when it comes to Hades. Hades isn't meant to be that person. He's meant to be a really bad accountant, or I should say, a really good accountant. We'll talk about it later. But for right now, here's the stories of Hades. Buried their dead, they put a coin under the corpse's tongue, so that his soul could pay the fare to the ferry that crossed the river Styx. It was Charon who rowed the boat. He was a miser. Souls who couldn't pay the ride had to wait on the side of the river. Sometimes they came back to haunt those who hadn't given them the fare. On the other side of the river was a great wall. Its gate was guarded by Cerberus, a three-headed dog who had an appetite for live meat and attacked everyone but the spirits. Beyond the gate in Tartarus was a great wide field, shaded by black poplars. Here lived the dead, heroes and cowards, soldiers, shepherds, priests, minstrels, slaves. They wandered back and forth aimlessly. When they spoke, they twittered like bats. Here they awaited trial by three judges, Minos, Rhadamanthus, and Aetius. Those who had particularly displeased by the gods were given special treatment. Sisyphus must always push a rock uphill. Each time he gets it halfway up, it breaks loose and rolls down to the bottom, and he must begin again. And this he will do for all of time. Tantalus has been given a burning thirst, and is set chin deep in a cool, clear stream of water. But every time he bends to put his lips to the water, it shrinks away, and he can never drink. Here he will stand as long as Sisyphus rolls his stone. But these are special cases. Most of the souls were judged to be not too good and not too bad, but simply dead. Those, they went back to the field, which is called the Field of Asphodel, to wait for nothing. Those judged to be of unusual virtue went to the Elysian fields close by. Here it was always a holiday. The air was full of music. The shades danced and played all day long, all night long too, for the dead need no sleep. Also, these happy spirits had the option of being reborn on earth. Only the bravest accepted. There it was a special part of Elysium, called the Isles of the Blessed. Here lived those who had been 3 times born, and 3 times gained Elysium. Hades and his queen lived in a great palace made of black rock. He was very jealous of his brothers and scarcely left his domain. He was fiercely possessive, gloated over every new arrival, and demanded a head count from Charn at the close of each day. Accountant. Never did he allow any of his subjects to escape, nor did he allow a mortal to visit Tartarus in return. There were only 2 exceptions to this rule, and those are other stories. The palace grounds and the surrounding fields were called Erebus. This is the deepest part of the underworld. No birds flew here, but the sound of wings was heard, for here lived the Erinyes, or Furies, who are older than the gods. Their names were Tisiphone, Aletto, and Megaera. Hey, that's that girl from... Oh, we should probably not mention Disney. Okay. They were hags, with snaky hair, red-hot eyes, and yellow teeth. They slashed the air with metal-studded winged whips, and when they found the victim, they whipped the flesh from his bones. I almost thought they were harpies. Sorry about that, everybody. Their task was to visit Earth and punish evildoers, especially those who had escaped other judgment. They were greatly feared. No one dared say their name, but they were referred to as the Eumenides, or the kindly ones. Hades valued them. They enriched his kingdom, for their attention persuaded people to suicide. He enjoyed their conversation. When they returned to Erebus after their work was done, they circled low over the palace grounds, screaming their tale and the latest gossip. Hades was well cast for the dead. He was violent, loathed change, and was given the slow, black rage. His most dramatic hour was when he kidnapped Persephone and made her his queen. But that belongs in the next story. Man, they did this one so wrong.